All righty, boys and girls, welcome back to another episode of the Red, White, Claret, and Blue Show with your hosts, Alex Baquero and Chris No Name Condit, your American villain voices, as always, serving up the lukewarmiest of lukewarm opinions. Everybody go follow, like, rate, review, listen, subscribe, all the things. What are you drinking there, Chris?
No free ads, Alex. That's why I was trying to spin the bottle.
Is that just tell me, is that a cerveza that I see, or are you just chugging wine straight out of the bottle and
No, it's a
the
cerveza.
ratio is throwing me off?
It's an Irish cerveza. How's
Okay.
that?
It looked a little big in the camera angle, and
Yeah.
listen, man, if you're just straight here swigging wine, like, I get it.
We're
right
getting there. We're getting close.
You noticed, throughout the history of this podcast, I don't think I've ever not had a nickname for you in the intro. And that just kind of shows where I'm at with my mental state right now, that I could not come up with one beforehand off the cuff. That's the life that we're leading right now. So I hope you're doing better than me.
I'm okay. I'm doing good. The Condit family was struck by an illness over the weekend. Yeah, Bridget got knocked out Friday and Saturday, and then I got knocked out Sunday. So I was able to watch like part of the Villa game and then part of the Browns game. And then I said, I'm out of here, and just went to bed for the rest of the day. So it was like 10 a.m. Eastern time that I called it a day.
Is it TMI to share what you got struck down with? What plague has infected you?
Well, so Bridget got something different because what she had and what the kids and I had were different, so it appears that the kids and I just got some sort of upper respiratory virus, and you can probably hear it in my voice right now, and I'm going to cough throughout this podcast because we're still shaking out the remains, but I'm feeling fine again, so that's good. But it knocked me down for a day, and each of the kids were able to power through because they're children. And then, like I said, Bridge was out for 48 hours with her various illnesses. But otherwise, we're doing great. Villa win, Browns lose. So a pretty typical autumn Sunday in the Condit house. How are things with you and your lovely family, Alex?
I don't know.
That good, huh? Yeah.
I don't know. As you know, and we'll bring the lovely listeners up to speed here, I am basically doing two jobs right now, which is forcing me to work pretty much every waking hour of every day, weekends included. The time that I'm not working for my regular job, I'm working on my home to prepare for our baby shower this weekend, and then
you just broke news right there on the pod.
I think most people know. If they don't,
you think the
I'm
folks in England that are watching this right now know about this?
Yeah, I guess they do. All right, yeah, I'm having a kid. Please celebrate me.
Yeah,
celebrate me and my coming family. No, I'm not sharing the name yet. And so yeah, I don't know. I'm tired. I'm running at 100 miles an hour through life. I will make it through this weekend, and then I think my body will collapse. But what is not collapsing is this Aston Villa winning run. So I think we need to hop right back into that, Chris.
Still got it.
Forgot your name, but I still got it. Fourth win in a row. I will say fairly comfortable 2-1 win over Burnley. I think we are continuing that upward trajectory that we've talked about for our last couple pods. So, even in our last few losses before this run, we were saying that there has been incremental progress in each one. And I think you've continued to see that over the course of the 4 wins, with this being probably the best, also probably against the worst opposition of that run. So, take that with a grain of salt. Let's talk about the tactics and the approach, because I think that is a key to probably where this comfort came from. And Chris, initially a very defensive lineup, kind of similar to what we had at the start of the year with Youri Tillema in the 10. We had McGinn there today, and then Kamara and a rapidly ascending Lamare Bogarde in the field. Danielle Mallon playing with Ollie Watkins and the undroppable Morgan Rogers. What'd you think when you saw the lineup come out?
So at first, I wasn't as down on the lineup as you were when we texted back and forth, but I understood your hesitation because it did look very defensive in setup. But I like the pairing of Luka Dean and Pau in the back on the left. I think that defensively is our best option on the left side. But you also have Pau's ability to move forward with the ball out of the back and direct out of the back. So I like that. And Bogarde, I mean, you're getting to the point now with the last handful of games that he's played that he's been one of the better players on the pitch consistently for all 90 minutes of each of the last 2 or 3 games now. So I'm extremely pleased with his progress within the system and his ability. So I where we had reservations last year, I am quickly losing any reservation of Emery putting him out there. It makes sense to me why he's doing it, because why Emery's doing it, because Bogarde looks extremely comfortable with the ball, moving with the ball, passing the ball, which is something that we really hammered last year. If you remember when he struggled, he couldn't complete a pass to save his life. And then also his defensive movement has been very good. So one of the things that you noted in the rundown here that I think we all took note of is that as we progressed into attack, you dropped into a back 3 with Lamare Bogarde standing to Konsa's left, with Torres and Luka Dean moving further upfield. So what there it was. It didn't take too long for me to start coughing. So what that did was create a lot of space in the pitch for Villa to operate. And part of the reason I think that it works so well is I don't think that Burnley had any idea that that was coming. So one of the things that you and I have been asking for was a change up in tactics from Unai Emery, and we got it in this game today, or in this game Sunday.
Yeah, so I'll touch on Lamare Bogarde a little bit later because I think the formation was key for me. And this is something that you talked about with him stepping into the back line to create a back 3. Typically I have been against that as a build-up approach because I don't think that we've done it effectively. What it has been traditionally has been someone like Aboubakar Kamara stepping into the back line to create a 3, but then leaving Youri Tillema isolated in the middle in that central defensive midfield role. It leaves too much space for him to cover. What was different about this the other day is that instead of it becoming a 3-1-4-2 or whatever we've done before, 3-1-4-2, that would be 10 players. Yep. It was more of a 3-2-3-2. So you have Bogarde, Konsa, and Pau across the back line. John McGinn would move out of the 10 to create a 2 with Kamara in midfield. Rogers comes infield and now has a ton of license to roam in the center as a true number 10, because finishing that 3 are 2 incredibly wide Matty Cash and Luka Dean on each side. So whereas before our 4-2-3-1 had all that congestion in the middle of Rogers and Buendia and Gasson or Malen or whoever, all trying to occupy that same space behind Ollie Watkins, now you say, Rogers, that's all your space. You have all freedom to operate in here, find the pockets of space. You're not going to get in the way of other people, have other people get in the way of you. And then we were able to push Malen more upfield alongside Ollie Watkins, where obviously he was incredibly effective. And you saw the combination between him and Rogers in particular, assist for his goal. And also Rogers has the hockey assist for his first goal by passing the ball to Kamara, who pings that beautiful ball through the back line before Malen holds the guy off. So in essence, the 3-2-3-2, I think, gave us a lot more balance, not only as we moved up through the lines of the pitch, but also when you think about left to right. So you have those guys wide on the touchline. You and I have been screaming since week 1 for the fact that we need to have more dedicated width to keep the opposition team honest, stretch them out a little bit. And it didn't concentrate all those attacks down the left-hand side. If anything, it probably took Burnley by surprise by going a little bit more to the right where Malen was drifting in. So, it's a subtle tactical evolution, but I think that this 3-2-3-2 buildup, at least on the weekend, was really effective for creating more opportunities for Aston Villa and making them a little bit less predictable for the opposition.
Yeah, I agree. I thought it was. Granted, it's against one of the worst teams in the league, and that goes without saying. So we're going to stop saying it from here on out. But we've also said on this podcast before that any win in the Premier League is a worthy win. It's not easy to win week in and week out. So I will take it. And that ability to create that space hopefully will be something that we see going forward with Aston Villa tactically, because it was Morgan Rogers' best game. It was obviously Daniel Malen had an amazing game and 2 really incredible finishes to seal the win. But I thought all in all, it was a pretty comfortable, solid win. There were a few moments where Burnley were able to get on the ball. The goal that Villa conceded, we'll talk about later. But I think all in all, a solid performance. And again, like you said, we continue to see improvement from where Villa started. And so the hope is that going into the international break, I feel a little more confident than the last one, where we were not scoring goals and in bad shape. I feel much better now with the direction of the team going into this international break. And I think that hopefully we have the next matchup against Spurs is going to be an interesting one. And hopefully Villa can make some noise and come away with a point or 3. But I'm getting ahead of myself now. I just want to say this was in terms of a total performance, this was probably Villa's best 90 that they've put together all season.
Yeah, agreed. So let's talk about Lamare Bogarde now, because I actually have a couple stats that speak to the impact that he has had so far this season. So I looked at his stats in 24-25 when we thought that he was honestly fairly poor and he quickly fell out of the lineup, to what he's done so far this year. So last year, he played 963 minutes across all competitions. Right now, he's at 374. So let's say roughly a third. And these are just kind of evidence of what we've seen with his increased confidence and ability and all that kind of stuff. Last year, he had 219 carries. This year, he's already got 136, over half in a third of the minutes. Take-ons attempted. Last year, 5 all year. Already has 5 this year. 1 successful as opposed to 2 successful last year. He's got 1 goal creating action already. Last year, he only had 2. His passing percentage is 6 points higher. 6.3 actually. He's at 94.8 as opposed to 88.5. He's got half as many progressive passes already. So he's looking up the field a lot more with those passes. Remember last year we said he was just going across and back, and even those he was struggling with. And then when you look at the touches, 408 last year, already at 198 so far this year. So nearly at half. So he's getting on the ball a lot more. I think part of that is a result of the position that he's playing, obviously being in defensive midfield as opposed to right back, right? Mm-hmm. But I think what you're seeing with all of this is, and I'm just speculating here, an increased confidence and comfort in the midfield as opposed to being in the back line. So especially for a young player, someone who has come up through a Dutch system, and I'm generalizing here, but a Dutch system is typically on the ball, passing, foot skill, like all that kind of stuff. They're very technically gifted players. Now he's got 2 center backs behind him. Every mistake doesn't result in, oh crap, that's a goal opportunity going the other way. Sure. So I think he has a little bit more freedom to try some things, to express himself, to express himself. At center back, he's not able to make those progressive carries the way that he is through the midfield. And so I think that actually putting him on the half turn gives him the confidence to play the way that he wants to play.
Yeah.
And so I think that you're seeing that in when he steps back into the back line, back into midfield. He's not just defending, he's not just breaking up play. He's carrying it forward a lot of the way that Boubacar Kamara does. And maybe he's kind of learned from his teammate in that respect. He has shown much more maturity and confidence to hold the ball. I don't have a statistic for like how long he's kind of keeping the ball on his foot, but if you see twice as many touches in a third of the amount of time, that kind of says that he's keeping the ball on his foot a lot more to be able to draw those fouls and all that kind of stuff. I mean, listen, there's growth, there's maturity, there's Unai Emery, of course, but I think we need to give credit also for him finding the right position and him potentially not being in the right one in years previous.
Sure. Yeah, no, absolutely. I think he, like I said, he's been one of Aston Villa's most consistently good players this season. And that certainly didn't change on Sunday. He looked great once again. And I'm very pleased that he's turned out. I think it's been great. The one thing that I came away with from the first half is, even though Villa had moments of looking very good, and Malen got the goal from that beautiful ball from Kamara, and we'll talk more about that, I'm sure. But Burnley still had their chances too. But I will say I think we may have seen a return to the offside trap once again, because there were quite a few moments that they were offside. I think they're probably Burnley's two biggest chances of the half ended in offside calls, delayed offside calls, but offside calls nonetheless. So I think we're seeing once again that back four that's been here for so long now. I mean, it's been here since the Biden administration, right? Like the early Biden administration. So you're seeing their ability to stay together once again, which is good, because that, to me, like we've talked about before, that's Aston Villa at their most effective, when they can set up that trap and be able to spring counters quickly, even when under pressure. And that's what we saw that resulted in the first goal. But I do want to at least mention Burnley were not without their opportunities in the first half.
Yeah, I mean, you could probably go so far as to say they were unlucky to be down at the half. I'm not saying that they should have necessarily been winning, but the first half definitely felt very much like a 50-50 affair. And this is something that has certainly been well, it's been an enigma to me. I don't know if it's by design for Unai Emery or not, but this team starts slow, and it really takes them a while to build into matches, even when they do take a lead like they did this weekend. I don't know, Chris. Like I don't have a great explanation for why that is. It is just something that I continue to see, that Villa just cannot seem to get going in that first 45, and it takes the halftime break for them to figure out, like, oh, we're actually kind of good at this game.
Yeah, I don't have an explanation for it either. I do think that that it's maybe harsh to say they didn't get going much in the first half, because Villa also had opportunities in the first half. Not only the goal that they scored, they were much better in the second half, consistently putting dangerous balls in. And I mean, you probably could have argued. I didn't look at the XG stats, but you probably could have argued that Villa could have had another goal or two based on their chances they created. One thing that did come up, it didn't get much play online or anything. The penalty shout at like 37 minutes, when Rodgers got a little tripped up, he went down too easy, right? That's all there is to that.
So soft.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I look, was there maybe a little tug on his shorts? Yeah. It didn't cause him to fall the way he did.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
never a penalty.
Yeah. So I'm with you there. That's like, but the fact that you didn't even see any Villa fans complaining about it tells you that they probably got the call right. You know, I didn't see anybody on Twitter complaining about that call. But all in all, I guess now's the time that we should talk about that goal from Malen. And I think there are 2 points, and we've already talked about both individually, but 2 points that you need to highlight. Kamara's ball to Malen was one of the best balls you're going to see, like one of the best passes you will see all season in the Premier League. It was perfect. Weight was perfect. Everything about that pass was exactly where you want it to be. And Daniel Malen, that finish under that kind of pressure, because you have to, who was it that closed out? Was it Ested? Was that who was tracking back? I think it was.
I don't remember which center back it was, but the
I think
strength
it
to hold
was.
him off was very impressive.
So yeah, I mean, first, great job by the Burnley defender. Again, I think it was Ested tracking back to force Malen wide. And I mean, really, Burnley did everything you would expect in that circumstance. They were in a bad spot. You close the angle as much as you can and make it an almost impossible shot. Malen just finished in a wonderful goal to put that ball in the back of the net. I mean, that is, you talk about world-class finishing. That's it. So I was super pleased when that ball went in. And you and I have talked about Daniel Malen a lot this season and how we think that he deserves more minutes. If he keeps playing like this, nobody's going to be able to keep him on the bench.
Yeah, and you know what? You got to give Unai Emery credit for moving him into an area where he can be more effective, right? Keeping him wide on the right is just not where he's most effective. Clearly, he is not a winger. He is more of a second striker. I also will not say that he is a lone number 9 per se either. I think he needs that striker to work off of to create some of that space for him. And so if we can create more lineups where he can play that secondary role, drift into that, I guess we'll keep calling it like a Musa Diaby type zone, that's probably where he's going to be most efficient and effective for Aston Villa this year, as long as there aren't other players clogged in there, taking up the space, blocking his passing lanes, all that kind of stuff.
I know he talked about the ball too from Kamara. It was a great job by Malen to spot the space and immediately start sprinting into that space as soon as the turnover happened. So it was just a really well executed counterattack from start to finish for me on that goal.
He's a very smart player. You might have seen the clip is doing the rounds on social media. The Premier League actually posted it, but for his second goal, I also would like to point out he was actually pointing directly at Morgan Rogers. He directed that whole thing. So whoever had the ball, pass to him, he turns, he makes the run, and then just gesticulates wildly for Rogers to feed him through. So the ability to see kind of a couple passes ahead there, uh, that also feels like some Unai Emery coaching, just knowing where the ball needs to go to get where it needs to be in the end.
Yep, I agree 100%. But I mean, great game from him. Rogers played his best game of the season, I think. He looked lively. He created a couple chances. He had one ball that I remember in the second half that got deflected and could have maybe gone in. So I'm pleased to see that, because you really want to see him get going, because if he is effective, the whole team is going to play better. There's no getting around that or no disputing that. And I thought, outside of the concession of the goal, I thought that the defense played pretty well as a unit. The frustrating moment for me is on that corner kick that Villa conceded the goal, because I don't know who switched off there, but somebody did. You have a free header.
So, yeah, that I wanted to talk about that. So Konsa is the closest to it, and I think he is picked off of his man. His man is the one who ultimately heads it in, and he's picked off of him so easily.
Yeah.
Like, a guy steps in there, just puts a body on him, and it's almost like he doesn't even fight to get through it. And so afterwards, you saw him scream and throw his arms around and stomp the ground, which to me says that there was a busted assignment somewhere in there, that there was supposed to be a switch if he was kind of picked or something like that. And so he was essentially left with 2 guys to cover. That's schoolboy stuff, dude. You cannot be making that mistake and leaving 2 of the most dangerous guys, one of them open in the box like that. I couldn't believe it.
I mean, nobody near him, outside of
Yeah.
Konsa, who was absolutely screened on the play. But that's so like the frustrating thing for me is that Villa just for now 3 years cannot defend a set piece.
Yeah.
And it's going to become an issue when you play against teams that are better than the Burnleys. And I mean, no disrespect to Burnley.
I mean, it's already an issue, dude. How many games have we lost this year?
Yeah, it's just, well, I'm saying now it's going to be an issue through the season, or it's going to become an
Yeah.
issue through the season, not going back to past seasons. Like that.
Yeah.
This team is not good enough to concede easy goals, right? Like if the goal is European football, then Villa cannot concede goals like that to anybody, let alone Burnley,
Yeah.
but to anybody, because any team in the Premier League is going to finish that. Anybody. Like that. It was a good ball in, don't get me wrong, but it didn't have to be that good because there's nobody there to defend it anyway. So that needs to get corrected. And Austin McPhee gets a lot of attention for what he does tactically in attack on set pieces. There needs to be attention paid in defending and very seriously and quickly from my view.
Yeah, that's one that I would like to see explored in an article of someone who's closer to the club, because the last that I read on it was that Austin McPhee is only an offensive set piece coach, and that the defensive structure is largely Unai Emery, and he has, for the overwhelming majority of his career, actually been terrible at defending set pieces. So this is a hallmark of just his coaching. I don't know why he hasn't changed at this point, and admittedly, I would need to do a deeper tactical dive on what he's done at prior stops to how Villa are doing these now. But that is something to keep in mind, and maybe something that we'll need to dig into on a future pod. But Chris,
Yeah, it boggles the mind, frankly, for me.
it really does. Two players I want to talk about on opposite ends of the spectrum now: Pau Torres and Ollie Watkins. So Pau Torres, someone who you and I have long championed as our best left center back, as much as we love and respect Tyrone Mings, we do not agree with the majority of the online Villarati. We think that Pau Torres should be starting week in, week out because of what he brings offensively. And I think you're now seeing online a lot of people subscribe to that belief, how Villa have leveled up their attack with Pau Torres back there. And you're seeing more people kind of come out of the woodwork to join us and say, yeah, Pau Torres needs to be starting when everyone is fit. The flip side, Ollie Watkins, scored the beautiful goal the other week, but has not really kicked on, hauled off early over the weekend against Burnley, just doesn't seem to be getting on the ball or impacting the play all that much, not pressing all that well, not super effective in his hold up play or in his dribbling or in his creation for others this year. And hasn't really kicked on from that first goal to kind of score in bunches the way that we expect him to. So I guess I'll just kind of open the floor to you for a little bit to say how you're feeling about these two guys and what they're bringing or not to the Villa squad right now.
Yeah, so Pau is easy. He's like you said, we've said for forever now that he's our best defensive left center back, and he's the best option when everyone is fit. Not to say that Tyrone Mings is bad, but like we've said many, many times, especially me, it's good to have more than one good player at a position. That's not a bad thing to have. And he continues to play well. And like I mentioned, you can really tell in the back when the team is going well offensively. A lot of it has to do with what he's doing in terms of playing out of the back. The comfort level playing out of the back is different with Pau Torres back there than it is with Tyrone Mings. So the team is able to suck in pressure more with Torres than they are with Mings usually out there. In my opinion, I don't have a data to back that up, but that's what my eyes tell me. Ollie Watkins. The biggest surprise to me is that the goal that he scored hasn't led to more goals, because typically he's a player that plays well based on confidence, and when he scores one, he tends to score more. And I think, at least in the early going, I was able to chalk up his struggles with or to the fact that everybody was struggling across all 11 on the pitch almost, so I wasn't as concerned at that point when we were early on. Now that it's continued, though, as the rest of the team has started playing better, particularly if you look at the link up between Rodgers and Malen on Sunday, it's interesting that Watkins hasn't found that same sort of chemistry that we've seen prior. So I don't have an explanation. I It's not like Watkins suddenly got bad, like that doesn't make any sense. And he's certainly not washed. He's what, 29 years old, so he's not at the end of his career yet. But for Villa to get where we expect them to be and where the club expects them to be, we need Ollie Watkins at 100% firing and playing well. And so far that hasn't happened. And I think as he struggles, the club will struggle. So he needs to the club need him to get going.
Yeah, it's funny. Early on, you're right. Everyone was playing poorly, and I think you could specifically point out Ollie Watkins, his lack of production potentially being a result of Morgan Rogers' form, right? Morgan Rogers is expected to be the chief creator, and it wasn't kind of doing that. So was it impacting Ollie Watkins? All of a sudden, Daniel Malen comes in, and Morgan Rogers, I mean, look, not back to his best, but certainly looked a hell of a lot better than he has over the first couple of weeks. And so, how much of Morgan Rogers' poor form was a result of Ollie Watkins not being in the spots where he expected him to be, and receiving and passing along the balls the way that he expected him to? So it's almost like this vicious cycle of both of their poor play, like further driving the other one down towards this bottom. And the thing with Ollie Watkins, though, is that even if we wanted to drop him, give him some rest, whatever, first off, history shows that that doesn't motivate him. It just makes him play worse. And two, we don't have anyone else to put in there. As I just said, Daniel Malen is not most effective as an out and out number 9. He's most effective as a secondary striker where he can operate in different pockets of space. Evan Gasson has played number 9 last year, but I don't think that anyone's looking at early returns on him and being like, yep, that's your solution for Ollie Watkins. Also someone who I think is better served on the wings or somewhere like that. So Ollie Watkins is going to keep playing. Fans are calling for Morgan Rogers to be benched because we have other options in those attacking midfield positions. The only reason why you're not hearing it about Ollie Watkins is because there's no John Duran breathing down his neck anymore. Otherwise, I think the calls for him to be dropped would be just as loud, if not louder, than Morgan Rogers. And maybe that's a good thing. Honestly, maybe it's a good thing that he can kind of deal with this quietly and just kind of fight through it until he gets back to the point that he is. Because as long as we're getting goals from other areas of the pitch and this winning run keeps going, like, doesn't really matter all that much.
Right. And that is one thing that we said in the preseason, was that we needed goals from elsewhere, not just Ollie Watkins. That the goals needed to be spread across the pitch, and that's what we've seen in this winning run. That's what we need. Daniel Malen's scoring is good,
Yeah.
and will lead to more opportunities for Ollie Watkins to score. So I do think that a rising tide lifts all boats here. We may not have seen it on Sunday, but I think as these players grow in confidence, Rodgers, Malen in particular, because like I said, Sunday was easily the best game for both of those two. As they grow in confidence, you're going to see Ollie Watkins get more opportunities. I remember one he had in the second half where he kind of scuffed it and it deflected off a defender and bounced over the crossbar, if I remember right. So Watkins with more opportunities will score more goals. That's a proven fact. And I think largely for the first part of the season so far, we talked about it. He did not have opportunities. He was pretty much standing there isolated by himself, not getting service, not getting anything. but that wasn't the case here on Sunday. And I think that we need to hope as fans that he snaps out of it, because if he can't get going, it's going to be tough, even as well as the other players are playing. We need Ollie Watkins playing well to be an effective team in the Premier League and in Europe.
Agreed. So, Chris, we've covered most of my good points. I have two bad ones, and that is I guess I'll call it the Emmy squared injuries. So you've got Emmy Martinez posting on social media that he actually has a calf tear, and you could see the bruising on the back of his calf that would indicate a tear and some internal bleeding there. Having torn my hamstring, I can say it does look very similar. So that's something that I guess he'll continue to manage and maybe not play as much in Europe if we deem those games to be easier. And then Emi Buendia stretchered off with head and neck injury off of that vicious forearm.
Surely should have been at least a yellow, right? Like, what the hell?
I gotta say, like, especially when you consider the yellow that Buendia just got a few minutes prior in an equal jump up for the ball. I mean, listen, I understand I'm a Villa fan, I'm reactionary, but it very much looked like he brought his arm up to shield, but then didn't shield the ball, actually took a step and thrust it into Emmy's head, neck, face area. To me, that was a red card, or at least should have been looked at and sent to the monitor for a potential red card, because there was a direct motion towards the opponent that I would argue a motion to injure. That
My issue is it's not even a yellow. Like,
yeah,
not a yellow. How? Where?
yeah.
In what universe?
I didn't understand that one whatsoever. But obviously, two guys super important to the squad. Emi Buendia, we've been talking for weeks about how he's been arguably Villa's MVP over the first 10 or so games of this season. So really hope he's okay. And I guess good that we've got an extra week for him to potentially recover and be ready for Spurs. Larger implication on the season, we are out of a relegation scrap and looking upwards. We're up to, I believe, like 13th. Really like 3-4 points off of top six where we want to be. So, you know, why I'm not getting overly jubilant on this, let's remain the lukewarmiest of lukewarm podcasts, is that yes, we are closer to the top six. Unfortunately, we are where we are playing probably the easiest schedule in the league so far. So there are much more difficult games upcoming. You know, you would feel a lot better if we were here right now, having already played Arsenal, Chelsea, Liverpool, Bournemouth in our run so far, as opposed to some of the teams that we've had. Games are only going to get harder than what we've already faced, and like we said, still not a super convincing win. What I will point out is that over this 4-match winning run, and actually across the whole season, Villa have only won the expected goals battle twice, and that was Bologna and Burnley. They've tied Brentford and Fulham, tied Fulham despite a 3-1 win. They were both, I think, a 1.1. We've been destroyed in every other game on expected goals, including Feyenoord. Feyenoord was something like 2.5 to like 1, maybe even less in that Villa victory. So, you know, I think those numbers kind of reinforce just what you and I have said. It's getting incrementally better every time. We're seeing reasons for optimism. We're seeing Unai Emery start to tweak the formation and the build up a little bit, like we talked about today, going to the 3-2-3-2. But it's certainly not all the way there yet. We have yet to see a fully dominant, convincing win. Hopefully that comes in a couple weeks, as they've had another week off to potentially work back at Bodymore.
Yeah, I'm with you, and I will say, like, I think that this, like I said, I think this 90 minutes was the best 90 that Villa have put together on the whole for the season. So that bodes well, even though it's against lower table competition. I think that the upcoming match, which we will preview, you know, in a week or so, with Spurs, is going to be a telling one, because Spurs are playing very well. Thomas Frank has them playing very well. They look very good. They're third in the league right now, I think, point off of
they're up
Liverpool.
there. Yeah.
Yeah. So, real challenge for Villa coming up, and a test sort of to see where the team is and if we can hang with the European clubs, the clubs that we would expect to be in Europe at the end of this season. So I'm excited for what comes next. I hope that everybody gets healthy, Buendia and Martinez in particular. I just want to point out again that Emi Buendia got elbowed in the face and or neck in such a way that he had to be stretchered off, and the only player that was carded was Emi Martinez. I need an explanation for that. It doesn't make any sense.
Time to bring back the demanding of apologies, I think.
I kind of want an apology for that. What are we talking about here? But a positive way to go into the break. Always a good thing to come into the break on a win, and hopefully that the team can build on this going forward now.
Yep. So as you said, upcoming international break, we will be back at some point next week with a preview of the Spurs match. And also shouts out, as we always end, to new subscriber and commenter Lee Millward on YouTube. So thanks for joining us. Hope you stick around for the season. Everybody else, slide tackle into those DMs, into those chats, into those comments, and get involved. Let us know what you want to hear. Chris, I think that's all from me. What about you, buddy?
Sounds good.
All right. Well, then, as always, sir, up the Villa.
Up the Villa.
Hi, Mom and Dad.